Hey beautiful souls, today I'm gonna talk about how to reframe getting hated on because doing YouTube, guys, the thing is I always feel like for something to be worth saying, it needs to be somewhat contrary to what most people are saying. Like I never say anything, I never make a YouTube video about anything that I feel like people are already saying because I don't really care about it because I'm like, what makes talking about stuff fun is that you don't exactly agree because you can make points, make counterpoints, and then the conversation goes somewhere. It's also how people think. It's like the way you evaluate something in your mind is like you have arguments and counter arguments, and that's like the way of thinking as well. You know, you're trying to solve a problem. It's like, okay, this is why it works, this is why it doesn't work. And it's like if you think about it, thinking is kind of just like an argument with yourself. And when you do that with other people, that's like collective thinking. So because of that, I don't say shit that I feel like most people already believe. Basically, my style of viewing conversation and my relationship with conversation and my relationship with putting things out there requires me to go against a lot of people's beliefs, and because of that I usually get hate. That is also why I stopped doing YouTube for an entire year, because it was just too stressful, and also because I was going through a lot in like other areas of my life, and I was like, but it was because of the hate, because I'm like, I'm going through so much in my life, I'm not gonna put myself online and my mental strength and emotional strength is going into other things. I don't have the strength to handle people throwing shit at me. But this is a good way to reframe being hated on. Now, what I want to say, this is kind of a disclaimer. I don't think your nervous system can detach from the pain of being not liked, because the way we're evolutionary wired is that your body, your nervous system, will perceive not being liked by other people as a threat because you don't want to be ostracized. It's evolutionary thing. And if we think about it psychologically, your first need as a child, as a baby, your first emotional need is just to be loved, to be paid attention to. That kind of attention, it's also a form of validation. It's like, you exist, you're here, I respond to you, I like am paying close attention to read your signs, especially as a baby. A baby can't talk. As a mother, or even a father, but I don't know because I'm a woman, but as a mother, it's like you have to especially try to figure out what the hell the baby's trying to tell you. This is why I find it so weird when the baby's crying and then the parents just start like swinging them around in the little cradle. Like, why don't you check in with the baby? I get it that they get tired, but that's not the point. Your first emotional need is to receive this sort of deep attention and validation. And on the other side of that, when you receive the very opposite, it triggers that anxiety of literally fearing death, because as a child, your survival is dependent on your primary caregivers. Later on in life, your survival is dependent on just the people around you, being in a group. Humans are physically one of the weakest species. We cannot survive on our own. Everything great about us comes from our ability to intelligently and cooperatively work together with people, think together with them. I also believe that's why humans are so different from each other in such fundamental ways, because each of us needs to bring something new to a community, because that's the only way we can thrive. If everybody knows how to fish, you being able to fish, it's not really, it doesn't bring value to the tribe. But if you know how to catch fish, this guy knows how to make weapons, that guy knows how to do that, then those things provide value to the group. Except if everyone knows how to do fishing but nobody knows how to make weapons, you'll most likely not survive. So people need to do different things, and also it's impossible to be able to do everything. So that is why I feel like humans are so different from each other, and that is why your nervous system's reaction to receiving hate will always be painful. I don't think you can get to a level of ascension where at least you're not like observing the part of you that reacts to that in some way, because you're human. Maybe if you die and you're like an astral being, maybe then you'll be able to do that, but till then, I think it's better to just embrace that nervous system reaction and reframe it. Now, this is the interesting thing, reframing getting hated on. Uh, I feel like the best way to reframe that is to look at what is hate. I've always said that hate is a coping mechanism. We hate something when it triggers something within us, a sense of powerlessness, a sense of inequality, a sense of injustice, or a sense of jealousy and insecurity. But that's the same as injustice. It's like they can have it and I don't. It can also be a reaction to our own inspiration we feel about someone. It's like, oh, they inspire us, but we don't want to face that because let's say someone's very like wild and free and crazy, and it makes them charismatic. It makes them like cool, and it inspires us, but because of how much we don't allow ourselves to be like that, we will stigmatize it, and we will not be able to admit it to ourselves that we're inspired by that. So the constructive way to look at something you don't like is to look at how you can do something about that that actually benefits you. So for example, if I see something, let's say I see someone say something misogynistic online, I have an emotional reaction that they should not be saying that, like that's not a good thing. And I'm like, okay, I cannot change the fact that they have a platform. I cannot change the fact that they do what they want. I cannot change the fact that they believe what they believe. You can't really change people's minds unless they're open to that. So I'm like, well, commenting something about trying to convince them that, like, no, women are people, no, oh, that wouldn't do anything because they're so ingrained into their own thing. And also self-respect, I'm like, why would I, or self-preservation, why would I put my opinion into a comment section where nobody's gonna agree with it and everybody's gonna tell me I suck because people that watch that person are like all misogynistic. So I'm like, okay, there's another way to go. This reflects a problem to me, misogyny, that I see in the world that makes me feel a sense of injustice. It makes me feel that it should not be happening. And I'm like, okay, what can I do about it? And I channel that into what I do. I channel that into YouTube. I channel that into my music. I channel that into just the way I live my life. Because as a woman, a lot of these misogynistic people, they don't want me to live freely. They don't want me to pursue what I want. They don't want me to express my truth honestly. They don't want me to, talk about periods and all that. Like I saw this code that is like period blood is the only blood that's not shed by violence, yet it's the one that disgusts men the most. Look, I don't think all men are misogynists and all men think that, but I just feel like mostly men that are misogynistic, they don't actually have a problem with the period blood. They have a problem with the fact that the woman is not insecure enough to not talk about that. Like, how dare she dare not to just be a pretty little thing? Like, as a woman, I'll tell Bestie, like, hey, yo, I'm gonna go take a shit. Like, who cares? Even if there are men around me, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Because I refuse to be a fragile little flower. I'm a human being. I'm so much more than that. And that comes from my channeled negative feelings of injustice. It motivates me to express my truth. It motivates me to be free, to just be who I am and love myself the way I am. And of course, there are things like leaving your body hair that are very stressful. I didn't shave or remove my body hair for like a good 3 years. And like, it was so stressful to go out having people see that I have leg hair and like wearing a bikini. Like, it was just so stressful, like beyond stressful. I just couldn't get used to it. I felt like I was looked at all the time, weird. I just couldn't do it. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna remove my body hair. And yes, I'm aware that that comes from my desire to fit in, because I personally don't really give a shit about body hair. Like, that comes from my desire to fit in and be liked by other people. But I'm like, still, the stress is just not worth it in that situation. I'll stand up for myself in other ways. I'll be myself in other ways. And maybe one day I will be comfortable enough to do whatever the hell I want with my body hair. Yeah, point is, the logical, constructive thing to do, basically the thing to do that is not an absolute waste of time, is to take something that gives you a sense of being oppressed, or a sense of injustice, a sense of this is wrong, you shouldn't be saying this is not good, to just reply to that and say like, oh no, this is bullshit. It's not constructive. Like, you will not take away their platform. You will not like spread awareness. It doesn't matter, you know, to argue with someone to try to change their mind. What you can do is to look at the problem that it shows you, that it reflects to you, and then face that problem in your everyday life. Do something about it in your everyday life. Don't just like tweet some bullshit. When people hate on me, I actually think about Jesus. It's kind of funny, but no, I do. I think about Jesus, because when he was crucified, he said that like, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. And I totally think that, like, anytime people are hating me, I remind myself that they don't know what they're doing. They're wasting their time. They're not going to take away my platform. They're not going to take away my voice. They might give me a slight nervous system reaction of being uncomfortable, but they can't change my mind. They can't really do anything to me to stop me from doing what they don't want me to do. So, you know, the logical thing for them, or like the constructive thing for them, would be to look at why they feel about what I do the way they feel about it, and look at what that reflects to them. For example, if I see a misogynistic video, I will like be angry, feel all these like emotions, injustice, a sense of powerlessness, because like they're saying this to a lot of other young men and making them see the world in a misogynistic way. But to recognize where you have power and where you don't is a very important thing. And I've talked about this even in my male loneliness video, that I found a lot of value in stoicism, because to constantly try to control what you cannot change, it will only make you miserable. To constantly fight with people and try to change their minds, it will only waste away your energy and your time. When someone is naturally open to the ideas that you're sharing, they won't fight. So the moment they're fighting you, you've already lost. You're already wasting your energy on this fight, just making yourself more and more upset. And after that, you will lose either way, because like, the fact that they're fighting, you need to look at that and see what it actually means. You can translate that: I do not agree with you, and you will not change my mind. I do not want to change my mind. I do not consent to having you change my mind. I do not care to hear you out. But that's not what they say. They say like, oh, you're wrong, you're stupid. Why would you, if you're able to translate that into what I just said, you realize how you trying to change their mind is actually not in line with probably what you value. Because for myself, I value giving people respect in the basic human decency sense, giving people the respect of believing whatever they want to believe. It's not really that I respect their opinion, because like, they could be a Nazi or whatever. It's more recognizing my place in the greater system of things, and that I literally am not able to change their mind if they say they don't want me to change their mind. So it's not about like respect people's opinion, but recognize when people don't want to learn more about what they're like. Listen, you know, recognize when people don't care about what you're saying. They want to believe what they want to believe. They choose to believe what they choose to believe. And you cannot control people's decisions. If they decide to be like a Nazi, for example, it's not that you should respect that, it's that you should recognize that you cannot really do anything about that. And of course, you should always protect yourself. You should do what you can, but you should recognize where you're only wasting your time. And this is what I remind myself of when I get hated on by people, like they commenting shit. I'm like, I don't really lose anything by you telling me I'm a fucking slut. I don't really lose anything. My life is still what it is. I'm still doing what makes me happy. Not just happy, but I'm doing what matters to me. Um I'm I'm lending my energy towards building something that I care about. And you can't take that away from me by calling me this and calling me that. Like, sure, you'll hurt my ego a little bit, and that's normal. Everyone has an ego. That's not something bad. You know, God gave us free will. Like, you're gonna have an ego. That's not like, that's more something to integrate and learn to live with rather than eradicate. But you know, I look at that and I'm like, you are wasting your time. I won't change. You're only showing me that you're intimidated by me. Because, like, why else would you call me a slur? Why else would you call me all those things? Or why else would you need to explain in a monologue why I'm stupid? Like, you know, especially people that make fun of you are, like, a lot of the times intimidated by what they see in you. And that's why they feel a need to bring you down. Because, like, you know, yeah, that's why they feel the need to bring you down. And even if you don't think that you think it's not that deep, oh, they're just more powerful than me and they're enjoying being more powerful, why do they enjoy putting someone down that they need to perceive is weaker than them? Why do they enjoy that? Do they feel like they are not allowed to be weak in their life? They're not allowed to not be beautiful. They're not allowed to not be strong. They're not allowed to be weird and kind of autistic and not charismatic and not funny and kind of socially awkward. Do they feel like they don't deserve to be loved and treated with respect if they are like you? They might try to put you down because of that. And when people perceive you that way, when you are a direct reflection of their insecurities and you have self-respect, that is like the definition of charisma in what I think. Because the most charismatic people are always the ones who display everything about themselves that everyone else would be ashamed of and too ashamed to show, and they stand in it. They don't give a fuck. I'm like, yep, I'm nerdy. Like, who gives a shit? Like, yep, I'm kind of weird or gross. As a woman, every human thing you do is gross unless you're like, fuck you, I have a fucking whatever, not perfectly clear skin. Like, I don't like wearing makeup, I don't know. And I'm not a pick me. People will call me a pick me. Oh my god. People that want to be like anyone, first of all, even to call someone a pick me, it's like, okay, you can acknowledge that, but to want to make someone feel bad about it, it's like, why do you need to make them feel bad? Like, what is happening within you that your desire is for them to feel ashamed of what they said? Just think about that, because shame is not constructive. Them feeling ashamed of what they just said doesn't contribute to what you want to see in the world. It doesn't contribute to your desire. Like, it doesn't contribute to your desires. That someone feeling ashamed, it's like, okay, I've realized what I've said was stupid, and yes, I forgive myself for that because I didn't know better at the time. That is actually more likely to lead them to being a better person than just them feeling ashamed of something, and because of that they suppress it and hide it and they don't look at it. And that is why people that are ashamed of things, they don't work through it. You know, that's what is called shadow work, because the shadow is what people push to the back. That is what people push into the shadows because they don't want to show them. That's why it's called shadow work, because it deals with the parts of you that you don't want to look at because you've pushed them into the shadows, because, you know, you're not putting them out into the light for everyone to see. or for yourself to see. And, you know, shadow work is the only way to actually grow and change. It is the purest form of self-reflection. To look at the things that you're ashamed of. It's, in my opinion, I think is the purest form of self-reflection. And to judge someone for their mistakes and hate on them pushes them towards doing the exact opposite. It pushes them to repress that side of themselves and not look at that and not work through it. So the constructive thing would be to see someone, for example, my example, I get mad at misogynists on the internet. To see someone who's being misogynistic, and of course only if they're open to it, because if they're not open to it, you cannot do shit. But if I'm talking to someone who is in a position in their life where they have been led by their circumstances and everything that shaped them into who they are to believe in the ways of misogyny, if they're actually open to hearing me out, they're open to genuinely connect with me, I wouldn't trash them. You know, to trash someone is like literally a waste of your time, and you're only doing harm. So, I mean, to what you want, not to them. Like, to them as well, probably, but that's not the point. So I would talk to them and I would be like, what led you to believe this? Explain your point a little. What desires of yours is misogyny blocking you from reaching? Because to look at women in that way, it stops you from achieving your desire of being in a mutual relationship where you're partners with each other. Everyone deep down, when it comes to relationships, it is healthier for you, it is better for you, it is more fulfilling and stable for you if you are with someone of mutual intelligence, you know, mutual humor. This was my like my last video about compatibility. It's that when you're on the same path, you know, she gets you, she makes you laugh, so much, like you just can't stop laughing, like she's beautiful, you know, you're of equal attractiveness, you're like equal intelligence, open-mindedness into the world, you're in love with the person. There's a very important distinction between like being like, I need a woman because like I need her to cook and have sex and all that, versus like being fascinated by who someone is as a human being. And the last one is proven to work better for people in long-term relationships, in overall life fulfillment, life stability. Um, you know, lust is one of the seven deadly sins and all that because it corrodes your soul. It's not just a sin because you hurt other people with it. To be hateful towards women and see them as less than other people, the less than human, you know, less than yourself, it hurts you, first of all. Because me, you can hate me all you want, I'm just not gonna fucking interact with you. And it's like, oh, what you gonna do if I stab you and shit? Girl, first of all, there's this thing called the police, but also, I don't know, like I do martial arts. I honestly, I do get scared sometimes, but I'm like delusionally confident in my ability to fight for some reason. Um, you know, crazy people will always be out there. I'm not gonna be like, it couldn't happen to me. It could happen to anyone, but you know, I'm not just gonna act like physical violence isn't scary, but even then, I can't really do anything if that happens to me. If I'm a victim of that, even if I fight my best, it's like if they're stronger than me and they just want to fucking murk me, they're going to. I can't do that. It's, you know, the way of looking at that and kind of accepting my fate if I can't change it. You know, I'm not saying I'd be like nonchalant while getting murdered, but I'm just saying these misogynistic men, they can't really reach me. They can't change my mind. They can't change the way I perceive myself because I know that self-hatred is an illusion. It is a tool that you're using to get your emotional needs met of feeling loved by other people. So you suppress certain parts of yourself that you start hating about yourself in order to be accepted by others and in order to feel worthy and feel loved. But there are other ways of meeting those emotional needs that are not toxic to yourself. I've always said, like, to chase love, I said this in my last video, that like wanting love and affection and validation, these are not bad things to want, but what are you willing to give for it? Your authenticity, your, being in your purpose, all that stuff. So, yeah, also your peace. But yeah, so what I'm saying is that if someone is actually a misogynist or even racist, I mean, I'm white, so it's not that. But let's say they hate Eastern Europeans, because I'm Eastern European. I don't know, if we were to have a conversation and they're actually open to hearing me, I would also be open to hearing them. And, if the conversation is not about them convincing me to be a misogynist, but just them showing and telling me what led them to believe this, and then after that they're open to hearing me and what led me to be against misogyny, and not be like, this is bad, you're stupid, this is why you're wrong, but just tell my story, then they're more likely to actually take that in and let that, naturally influence their worldview. Versus if I'm telling them, like, you're stupid, you're wrong, you're this, you're that, like, yeah, so point here is to understand the mechanism of hate helps me handle it, because I'm like, you hating, you're literally only burning yourself, you're hurting yourself, and yes, it makes me feel like a little uncomfortable, but in a situation where I'm getting hated on for doing something that doesn't really affect you, like me speaking my truth, me speaking my opinion, not even just convincing anyone that I'm right and everyone else is wrong, but literally just talking about it. And you hating me for that, I feel like you're the one losing in that situation. Because over here I am, lending energy towards something that matters to me, lending energy towards something that I believe in, that makes me passionate, that makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself and my life is worth living and I'm doing something important. It makes me feel good. And you're just over here throwing shit. How does that make you feel? So, yeah, this is what I remind myself of when people are hating on me. And I'm not saying I'm super nonchalant and I don't care and my stomach doesn't fucking fall to the floor when I see a hate comment. I'm not gonna pretend to be all tough about it, but I feel like I am learning to live, and I have learned to live through a lot of things that happened to me with the part of me that is desperate for validation, and just tell her what she needs to hear instead of trying to suppress it and act like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. What would that part of you want to hear that is desperate for love and terrified of people not liking them? What would they want to hear? And I try to tell myself that, like, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be wrong. Even if you're wrong, them bashing you for being wrong is wrong. You know? You're allowed to be wrong and then change your mind. It's okay. Like, you deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to have your story be heard, even if the people that hear it don't agree with it. So, yeah, tell that part of you what it needs to hear. Speak to the wounded part of you. Speak to the fear. Speak to the shame. Speak to the fear. Speak to the jealousy. Speak to the desperation. So that's the way I cope with hate. And also remind yourself of the reality of what they're doing is, because they're not taking from you. They can't really take from you, because the things you truly value come from within. And they cannot take that. So, yeah, this is how I cope with hate. And the most charismatic people are always the most hated because of jealousy. So, yeah, this is this video. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.